tale as old as time. I'm stopping myself from going further with the Disney songs, but the song is kind of perfect for the video. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about tales that stand the test of time. Historical fiction is probably one of my favorite genres to read. Now, I thought I read a lot of historical fiction, but turns out I haven't. I'm still going to share with you some of the books I have on my shelves that have traveled through time, because Disney Hyperion has put me to the test of taking the Passenger Challenge. Disney Hyperion has kindly sponsored this video, and they sent me Passenger to read, and now I get to tell you my thoughts about this book by Alexandra Bracken. I just finished Passenger last night. I'd say this is a solid 4-star book. The story was such like a sweeping romance, and I fell in love with both of the main characters, but what really took the cake was the ending of this book. I'm not going to give anything away, but if you've read The Darkest Minds, you know Alexandra Bracken loves to leave us with a cliffhanger. I think she really enjoys tormenting her readers with the long wait for the second book. The best way I can describe Passenger is National Treasure meets Outlander, because you got the whole time traveling thing. We follow our two main characters, Etta and then Nicholas. Nicholas was born back in the 1700s, and Etta was born in probably the 90s, because it takes place in present day time, but we start time traveling. Etta doesn't know about this, but she can time travel. She's one of the very few people in the world who can. She gets torn away from her real life, her normal life in 2015, back to the late 1700s. She doesn't know this, but her mother has been trying to hide from this like time-traveling Hitler-esque family because Etta's mom stole something of theirs and she's been trying to keep it hidden. Now Etta has to save her mom and look for the stolen artifact that the head of the family wants. Obviously, I love time travel. Obviously, I love historical fiction. I love Outlander. This felt like a young adult version of Outlander, but I definitely felt like something was missing in this book. Alex Bracken's writing definitely matured in this book, but I don't know if I liked it. There was a lot of beautiful description about the characters' wants and their fears, and description about kind of like pointless things. But there wasn't enough description about like the settings. I thought the story was super fast paced but slow at the same time. The characters are moving around from different eras and centuries and different locations, and you can't get like the full scope of where they are or like appreciate where they are in time. And I wish we had kind of stayed in certain places longer so that the characters could envelop themselves and enjoy the history. But besides that, I thought the romance in this was beautiful. It was kind of epic. I love that it was an interracial romance. I really like the push and the pull of their romance because Nicholas, is from a time where it is illegal to marry a white woman. He is trying to struggle with that while she, she's from now, the present day where, everything goes. It's perfectly fine, perfectly legal to love anyone. This is a duology. I don't know when the second book comes out, but I'm definitely looking forward to it and seeing how the story wraps up. Time travel is such like a fickle thing. We can't understand it because it doesn't exist, obviously. There's different rules for different stories, so you can't apply the rules from like other stories into this one. The wrinkle effect is something that is always there in time travel, so I understand that portion of it. Time traveling is so fragile with that wrinkle effect. Like you could move a branch or a leaf on the ground and it could change just 1 second in history. Now, when reading Passenger, I was thinking about what time period would I most like to travel to. I would love to time travel to when my parents were, my age, like they were 21. I would love to see them in that life in the 80s. But if I were to travel to a time that wasn't sentimental to me, I don't know. Maybe I would like to travel to like the Roman Empire or possibly, Pride and Prejudice era, the Napoleon era. If time travel were possible, I think the only reason why I would time travel was to wear the garments of that era. I really like dressing up. I don't love corsets, but I like feeling like a princess in a ball gown. We don't get to wear ball gowns, in everyday life. We don't get to wear long skirts and things. I mean, and sure you can, but you would get funny looks. Now we're gonna be time traveling through some of the books that I have on my shelves because I have a lot of books in different eras that I would like to share with you guys. So the first book book that I have goes like to the beginning of time. I was really trying to figure out if I had read anything past the early 1700s, and I have. I've read the Bible. The Bible starts off from the beginning of time in Genesis. We go through a lot of time in the Bible from the beginning of the world to probably like 100 AD. I'm actually reading Revelation right now for my Bible study, so that's kind of like the end of the world, but it's still like back like in the like 50 AD. Next, I have one of my favorite books of all time, and that is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. This takes place in the 1940s and in the 1740s. Besides the Bible, this is probably the earliest point in time that I've ever read. Also, besides Passenger. Passenger goes back in time a little further than Outlander. If you guys like Passenger and you want a more mature version, read Outlander. It's a wonderful story. You get to experience the 1940s as well as, you know, the Highlanders in Scotland in the 1740s before the Jacobite rebellion. Diana Gabaldon is actually an historian. She was bored one day and tried to write a book, and this is what happened. When you read Outlander, you also get a history lesson. I know a lot about Scotland now. Thank you, Diana. Traveling a little bit forward, we have the gold rush in the 1850s in California, and this is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers, another one of my favorite books, an epic romance. This is actually Christian historical fiction. It is based off of the book Haggai in the Bible. Francine Rivers likes to take inspiration from the Bible and turn them into books, and she does a lot of historical fiction. I have a couple of her books, but this is the only one I've read. This one is just painful, but it's still a beautiful read. This is a book that will put a mark on your heart and you will never forget it. Now we're traveling about 30 years forward to London 1878 with Clockwork Angel. I don't talk about this series enough on my channel. It's a paranormal historical fiction book. This is like the epitome of steampunk. Because I love fashion, I know a lot about women's fashion. I know that during this time, the corsets were the most binding and constricting that they ever were. They came like all the way up here and they went all the way down the hips so that it was very difficult to sit. Now, I don't think I would like to travel back to this time because of that fact. Next, I have two books that take place during the same time, but I haven't read them yet, and it's definitely an era or a time period that I would like to explore in my reading, and that is the early 1900s, like 1902. The American Heiress, I remember I bought because I love Downton Abbey. Downton Abbey is actually ended this year, so maybe it's time to read The American Heiress by Daisy Goodwin. Next, we have a book that I bought probably in March. It's The Secret Daughter of the Tsar, and this is about Russia and the Tsars, obviously. You know, Anastasia, they think that she was still alive, you know, that whole story. This book actually follows three separate ladies who are from different points in time. So we have someone who is from, you know, present day time now. We have a woman from the 1940s and the woman from the early 1900s. They're all connected somehow through the secret daughter of the Tsar. Moving on to the roaring 1920s. This is a time period when women started getting rid of all of their undergarments. They were getting rid of the corset. They weren't wearing a brassiere because brassieres weren't really created back then. So it was a very freeing period for a lot of women. This is The Diviners by Le Bray. I have yet to read this. I would like to read this at some time, but I'm still bitter about the fact that they have changed the covers. This is beautiful. Why would they change this? We are fast forwarding all the way until 1999, and this is Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I remember reading this and just feeling like When Harry Met Sally. Like, this is such a rom-com from the 90s. I would love to see this made into a movie at some point. This takes place, you know, during New Year's 1999 to 2000, when everyone was freaking out about like the clocks turning forward and computers shutting down. These books set in the past were the easiest for me to like pick off my shelves. I actually have read a lot of Regency romance. They're not really trashy, but they're not like the most acclaimed books. The Regency period is like Pride and Prejudice. Prejudice. And I could have put Pride and Prejudice in here, but I feel like I just mentioned it in my top 10 favorite book to movie adaptations video. That's it for my tales that stand the test of time. Thank you again to Disney Hyperion for sponsoring this video and for sending me Passenger. It's already out on shelves. Go get it. Go read it. I would love for you guys to recommend me some of your favorite historical fiction down in the comments. Thank you guys all for watching. I'm Natasha. I'll see you all in the future. Keep calm and fangirl on. Bye! As old as time, I don't think I can rhyme anything with books. Boogie and the Brooks. I don't know. That's it for my tales that Stop it.